Good morning, 5th grade. We're going to continue reading Esperanza Rising, Chapter 10. We're going to finish Chapter 10 today. And we want you to begin with this quick write. It says, describe a time when you were given more trust or responsibility from your parents. What was the new responsibility? How did it make you feel, and why? Press pause to write down your answer and play when you're ready for the focus question. How does Esperanza respond to change? What do her feelings, actions, sayings, and thoughts reveal about her as a person? Before we get started, we have 3 vocabulary words. The first one is potato eyes, and that is the round dark spots on a potato from which a new sprout or potato can grow. And so in our chapter, today, Esperanza's job is to cut out these eyes or these dark spots of the potatoes. And then they're going to replant those and new potatoes will grow. All right, the second one is repatriation, and that's the process of sending someone back to their home country. Another synonym would be deportation. And then last we have patron, or I meant to say La Patrona, and that is the female head of the household. And so we have a picture of Michelle Obama, famous La Patrona. All right, as we're reading chapter 10, we're going to use our FAST strategy, and this is going to help us in our whole group lesson as well. I'm in the middle of chapter 10, right after the part where Esperanza asked Miguel what are potato eyes. Okay, and this is where she starts her new job so she can pay the bills for the family. All right, Esperanza huddled with Josefina, Hortensia, and a small group of women waiting for the morning truck to take them to the sheds. A thick tulle ground fog that hugged the earth settled in the valley surrounding them, as if they stood within a deep gray cloud. There was no wind, only silence and penetrating cold. Esperanza bundled in all the clothing she could put on: old wool pants, a sweater, a ragged jacket, a wool cap, and thick gloves over thin gloves, all borrowed from friends in the camp. Hortensia had shown her how to heat a brick in the oven and bundle it in newspaper, and she hugged it to her body to keep warm as they rode on the truck. All right, so we know that. Probably going to underline this. Esperanza borrowed warm clothes from people in the camp so she could keep warm. That's an action. Let's keep going. Since the driver could only see a few yards ahead, the truck rumbled slowly on the dirt roads. They passed miles of naked grapevines, stripped of their harvest and bereft of their leaves. Fading into the mist, the brown and twisted trunks looked frigid and lonely. The truck stopped at the big packing shed. It was really one long building with different open-air sections as long as 6 train cars. The railroad tracks ran along one side, and docks for trucks ran along the other. Esperanza had heard Mama and others talk about the sheds, how they were busy with people. Women standing at long tables packing the fruit, trucks coming and going with their loads fresh from the fields, and workers stocking the train cars that would later be hooked to a locomotive and take the fruit all over the United States. But cutting potato eyes was different. Since nothing was being packed, there wasn't the usual activity. Only 20 or so women gathered in the cavernous shed, sitting in a circle on upturned crates, protected from the wind by only a few stacks of empty boxes. The Mexican supervisor took their names. With all the clothing they were wearing, he barely looked at their faces. Josefina had told Esperanza that if she was a good worker, the bosses would not concern themselves with her age, so she knew she would have to work hard. All right, this is a thought. She knew she would have to work hard so she could keep her job. Esperanza copied everything that Hortensia and Josefina did. Okay, that's an action. She's doing this so that she will look like a hard worker and she can keep her job. When the women put the hot bricks between their feet to keep warm while they worked, so did she. When they took off their outer gloves and worked in thin cotton ones, she did the same. Everyone had a metal bin sitting behind them. The field workers brought cold potatoes and filled their bins. Hortensia took a potato, and then with a sharp knife she cut it into chunks around the dimples. She tapped her knife on one of the dimples. "This is an eye," she whispered to Esperanza. "Leave 2 eyes in every piece so that there will be 2 chances for it to take root." Then she dropped the chunks into a burlap sack. When the sack was full, the field workers took it away. "Where do they take them?" she asked Hortensia. "That's a saying." "To the fields. They plant the eye pieces and then the potatoes grow." Esperanza picked up a knife. Now she knew where potatoes came from. That's a thought. The women began chatting. Some knew each other from camps, and one of them was Marta's aunt. "Is there any more talk of striking?" asked Josefina. "Things are quiet now, but they are still organizing," said Marta's aunt. "There is talk of striking in the spring when it's time to pick. We are afraid there will be problems. If they refuse to work, they will lose their cabins in the migrant camps. And then where will they live? Or worse, they will all be sent back to Mexico." "How can they send them all back?" asked Hortensia. "Repatriation," said Marta's aunt, La Migra. "The immigration authorities round up people who cause problems and check their papers. If they are not in order, or if they do not happen to have their papers with them, the immigration officials send them back to Mexico. We've heard that they've sent people whose families have lived here for generations, those who are citizens and have never even been to Mexico." Esperanza remembered the train at the border and the people being herded to it, and she had been thankful for the papers that Abuelita's sister had arranged. This is the thought, she's being thankful. Marta's aunt said, "There's also some talk of harming Mexicans who continue to work." Other women sitting around the circle pretended to concentrate on their potatoes, but Esperanza noticed worried glances and raised eyebrows. Then Hortensia cleared her throat and said, "Are you saying that if we continue to work during the spring, your niece and her friends might harm us?" "We are praying that does not happen. My husband says we will not join them. We have too many mouths to feed. And he told Marta she cannot stay with us. We can't risk being asked to leave the camp or losing our jobs because of our niece." Heads nodded in sympathy, and the circle was silent, except for the sounds of knives cutting and the crisp potatoes. "Is anyone going to Mexico for La Navidad?" asked another woman, wisely changing the subject. Esperanza kept cutting the potato eyes, but listened carefully, hoping someone would be going to Aguas Calientes for Christmas. That's a thought. But no one seemed to be traveling anywhere near there. A worker filled Esperanza's metal bin with another load of cold potatoes. The rumbling noise brought her thoughts back to what Marta's aunt had said. If it was true that the strikers would threaten people who kept working, they might try to stop her too. Esperanza thought of Mama being in the hospital and Abuelita in Mexico, and how much depended on her being able to work. She was lucky enough to have a job in the spring. No one was going to get in her way. All right, and this last 2 sentences are thoughts. Okay, so as we're going back over this section and thinking about Esperanza's feelings, actions, sayings, and thoughts, we know that for her actions, let's start there. Esperanza is all bundled up, ready to work in the sheds, and she is doing everything that Hortensia and Josefina do so that she can continue to get hired for work. And you can choose this quote or this quote for your answer. Press pause to write down your answer and play when you're ready for feelings. When we're thinking about her feelings, we get a hint right here about how she remembers the people being sent back to Mexico at the train station, and now she is feeling thankful for Abuelita for arranging for her and Mama to have papers that um, will keep them in the United States. So Esperanza is feeling thankful for Abuelita and her sisters that arranged for the right papers so she could come to the United States. And this, you can choose this sentence as your quote. Press pause to write down your answer and play when you're ready for the sayings. She asked Hortensia about where they take the potatoes. And so this gives us some insight into how, like, Esperanza is she really is trying to take an interest in the job that she's been given, and this shows that she wants to do a good job. So she asks Hortensia where they take the potato eyes. And it shows that she's taking interest in her job and she wants to do well. Press pause to write down your answer, and you can write this quote as well. And then we have the thoughts. Let's go back. These last thoughts are probably the most powerful. Esperanza is thinking about how much Mama and Abuelita depend on her to work, and she's not going to let anyone stand in her way of, making sure she takes care of Mama and Abuelita. And you can choose these for your quote. Press pause to write down your answer and play when you're ready for the paragraph. How does Esperanza respond to challenge, and what do her feelings, actions, sayings, and thoughts reveal about her as a person? And so the new challenge that has come up in this section is this idea of Marta and her friends striking, and how that might affect Esperanza as well as everyone else in the camp.